Always said the fakest Marine you'll ever meet in your entire life is a drill instructor because you are scripted from head to toe. You are scripted from your day to day. Those recruits that are in your charge, they don't know who you are as a leader. They don't know who you are as a father or a mother or a brother or a sister, an aunt or an uncle. They don't know any of those things. They don't even see you do all the training that they are required to do per se, because your job is to demand of them. It's literally in the scripted speech that you give them. I will demand of you by my own example. I think one thing is it's okay to value me. It's okay to love myself. It's okay to make mistakes as I grow and as I learn. Because for me, man, perfectionist is probably the wrong word, because none of us are perfect.
Do you ever feel like you are leading from a place that just isn't you? Perhaps trying to fit a mold or lead to someone else's expectations. Well, if you feel that way and you're ready to lead from a place of authenticity, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Josh Fisher, and this is Off Script, a leadership podcast for people who don't like leadership podcasts. So here we are. Let's go. All right. Welcome, Off Scripters. This is the first official listeners off script story from the stages with my boy, my friend, Mark Allen. Mark Allen and I go way back. He was this enlisted dude in the Marine Corps, and I was an officer. And I'll tell you, like, a lot of times enlisted and officer, with the fraternization rules and things like that, you just don't connect. But something about this dude, him and I hit it off right away. We just connected on what I would say is a deep, emotional, raw level. We both were very unique in how we led, how we communicated. But I would say more importantly, how we cared for the Marines that were under our charge, if you will. And something about him, man, he just pushed me to different limits. And I think it was the same for him. We did a lot of stupid shit together. 50Ks, 100-mile races. We competed in bodybuilding, men's physique. And more importantly, we just held each other accountable as brothers, as Marines, and as men in this sometimes crazy, hectic world. So let's get into it, man. Mark, thanks for being here, my man.
Yeah, man. Thank you for the invite. Thank you for the opportunity. When you asked me to come on, kind of like your intro, I started thinking about a lot of the things that we have done. It was like, holy crap. 50Ks to 100-mile race to 24-hour runs to bodybuilding, men's physique, you name it. There's a whole bunch of hold accountable.
Man, I tell you, and something that I started doing before recording these episodes to kind of wake me up and get me energized was doing this damn cold plunge thing. Something I've always wanted to do, but never had the courage or the cojones to do it. And I know you went through a 30-day trial period, if you will, of every day consistently doing a cold plunge. And I think the temperature outside was probably colder than the cold plunge itself, if I remember correctly, when you did it. And I was talking to my girlfriend. I was like, I want to do this. But guess what? I never pulled the trigger. Well, she bought me a damn cold plunge and a sauna for my birthday. So now I'm committed, and I did it before this episode. And I tell you, man, that stuff is legit. How was your experience with that?
No, man. You seem awake. You seem awake. It's good. Yeah, for whatever reason, I decided to do the 30-day challenge in January to kick off like the new year. And I live in South Carolina, so I thought, okay, it's not going to be too bad. Well, we got snow down in Beaufort, South Carolina in January, which is very rare. And it was like the ice snow. So I really felt like, okay, man, now I can kind of like feel the cold plunge experience that these guys like out in Midwest and up north where they break the ice and they get in. But I absolutely loved it, to be honest with you. I shouldn't say I loved it. I hated every single bit of
There's a
wanting.
love-hate relationship.
Yeah, I did not want to get in. Matter of fact, one day my daughter locked me outside because I kept coming back in and coming back in, and she was like, "You know what? Go back out." And she was like, "Lock the door." And she's like, "Don't come in till you're done." Um, but once you
It's your
get
girl,
in,
boy.
man, once you get in, the dopamine levels, the way that you can literally tell your brain to trust your body and then tell your body to trust your mind. It was just it's a oneness connection that unless you do it, you just don't know. So
Right.
not
How
very.
does that relate to life, man? That's, you know, how you said like this body mind connection. Tell your body to do something, tell your mind to do something, whatever the case is. Like, how do you see that benefiting you in your day to day?
Yeah, so for me, the cold plunge challenge for me was a lot of mental health stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
And it was really, for me, it was doing, forcing myself to do something that I didn't want to do, that was hard, and then accomplishing it.
Yeah.
Because when you go to step in that cold water, it's unnatural. Like, that's not a natural thing. So the body tells you absolutely not. And the mind reacts to that. But once you get in, you have to get to a point where you're literally telling your body to trust you. And that's life, man. That's life every single day for me anyway. Is it's just every day's tough. Every day is just that. It's life. And trying to find that connection between mind, body, and soul
Yeah.
is a struggle every day, but hey, it is what it is.
No, that's why I wanted to have you as the first guest to listeners off script. The story from the stages. Story from the stages is kind of like the essence of the off script podcast, where it's like leadership is all about performance and not necessarily human, right? So performance is being on a stage, and that's why it's called Stories from the Stage, man. I just want to get into your story and talk about basically what you just said. Every day is a struggle, and I'm sure you've used that. I don't want to say to your benefit because that sounds manipulative, but you've used your struggles and your story, especially towards the latter part of your career, to truly connect with your Marines and accomplish the mission at a higher level, because those individuals truly bought into who you were or who you are as a human. And so I was like, Mark is the perfect person to start this series off. So I want to ask this question to every guest I have on here, understanding and just knowing what the off script sort of mission is. What comes up when you hear the word or phrase off script leadership? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I know we talked a little bit about, this episode and kind of what your podcast was going to be about. And, I told you I'm an open book, man. Let's just go for it and let's talk. And when you say off script, my mind, so I don't know if I'm the perfect candidate for this, but my mind goes to the left and right lateral limits that were put in so many times.
Okay.
And as leaders, we're put in those left and right lateral limits a lot of times, I believe, depending on what jobs you are, or depending on what job you have, or company, organization, whatever you want to call it. And I think there's times that you have to break left or right of that to find that human connection. And I don't think it's necessarily whether you call it Marine Corps or military or just business in general. You're connecting with human beings. You're not connecting with employees or service members or CEOs or whatever the case may be. You're connecting a human being. So I've always just thought, like, if I can find the human, I can lead the employee. I can lead the Marine. But I got to know them as a human being first. And I think that's kind of, in my mind, when you ask about off script, that's kind of what I see, is breaking past that left and right lateral limit and finding the person, not the employee, the Marine, the soldier, what have you.
Yeah. I mean, in essence, that's what it is. You put it into military framework of left and right lateral limits, right? And for folks who don't understand that, is basically you have a shooting lane, if you will. you can go as far as left and as far as right. Don't go out of that, and you're okay. Well, same is with like leadership. It's like you have a little autonomy to do certain things, but don't go out here, don't go out there, because when you do, then you put yourself in a precarious situation and whatnot. And that's what off script is really about. It's like understanding that we don't have to lead in what I'm referring to as this box or this mold that society has told us what a leader should be, what a leader should look like, what a leader should talk like, and understanding like it doesn't mean like creating an uprising or being disrespectful or losing tact or treating people with without courtesy or not following rules and regulations. That's not what off script means. It's really going outside of those left and right lateral limits to exactly what you just said, is the human connection piece, regardless of industry, regardless of military or civilian, whatnot. We're human at the end of the day. We all have baggage, right? We all have a story. So I would like for you to share with us, I want to know who the real Mark Allen is. When you're in the dark, it's 3 a.m., there's no one around, you're not wearing a uniform. Tell me who you are. Tell me about you.
That's a scary kind of place some days, man. That's a
Yeah, it is. 100% it is. And you're not the only one that experiences those dark moments or the moments of what the fuck.
yeah.
Right?
I have a whole podcast on voices in the silence because that's what I hear every day is these voices in the silence. But no, it's, man, 3 a.m. in the dark, me.
Or another way to look at it, the easy question we always ask, which is the fake question. Tell me about yourself. Like, that's such a fake question.
Yeah. Yep.
Because when I say tell me about yourself, we talk about resume. We talk about our family maybe, right? But I want to know who Mark Allen is. Tell me about Mark Allen.
Yeah, man. So I've just started doing, I got a good friend of mine, Juan. He was on an episode with me, and he's got me doing a lot of breath work right now and those kind of things. And so this will tie in just in a second. So doing a lot of that breath work, the other day I was doing one, and it was talking about kind of connecting with your younger self. Not necessarily the child in you, just a younger version of who you are today. And, Josh, the crazy thing was I couldn't find this connection. Like, I couldn't find this connection of even a child in a happy sense, even a child in a joyful sense. So when you talk about, like, who is Mark Allen in the dark, it's a person that's constantly trying to ensure that others never have to feel the way that I feel. A person that's trying to ensure that no one else has to go to the same dark place that I have to go to. That's kind of been my whole life. I was the oldest of 6 kids. Grew up in a very low income household. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. My dad worked odd jobs after getting laid off from construction and coal mining. So I was always put in that leadership role, per se. Later on, I learned in therapy it was child parenting, but I was a child parent. But, so I've always tried to look out for everyone else because I never wanted them to be where I'm at. So I think when you ask about who is this person in this dark place, it's a person wrestling with these feelings and these emotions and these issues, per se, of how do I find peace? How do I find happiness? How do I find balance? How do I find all these things? And I find it by helping others hopefully find their balance, hopefully find their success. So I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know if that really answers your question.
Here's the beautiful thing, man. It doesn't have to make sense.
Yeah, that's good.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's your perspective. That's your thought. That's those things that you're struggling to articulate because you're constantly thinking about them, and it doesn't have to make sense. That's the beautiful thing, man. It's yours. Who cares if it makes sense, right? And you do, and you have shared with me multiple times the struggles and the things that you're going through with identity and trying to figure out your path on where you want to be who you want to be, who the hell are you, right? You wore a uniform for 23 years, right? You donned the script.
Yeah.
You know, you did a lot of monumental things in the Marine Corps and led at all levels. You know, you started this skinny little enlisted kid and then finished out the Marine Corps 23 years later in one of the most senior enlisted leadership ranks. Tell me some stories. Tell me some stories where you suppressed that 3 a.m. Mark Allen and how to lead within script, man. Tell me about those moments in your career.
Yeah, I think you were saying something a minute ago, and you were kind of talking about just the 23-year career and wearing the uniform and so forth. It kind of made me think about I know what you said. I'm sorry. You said the identification of myself, trying to find me. And I think for so long, man, I used that uniform as a mask. And I've said this before, and I try to relate the military to other terms, and I'll let you kind of box this for me. But I've always seen my career at the end, kind of like a movie. And you watch the guy, you watch the individual, let's say you're watching a movie, and there's an individual that works in a business, works in a company, starts out as like a janitor or somebody small within the business. And then they start to slowly move into an office position. And their goal was to get to the top. The goal was to get to the 13th, 15th, 20th floor, whatever it is. They got the city view, their own desk, and glass paneled windows. And I think for me in my career, that's all I ever saw. All I ever saw was going from this kid from a small town in West Virginia that grew up with nothing was to reach that top level, to reach that top floor. But so many times I would think, man, I'm there now, or I've made it, or I'm getting close, or whatever the case may be. And then I would realize in that moment, like, what sacrifices have I sacrificed to get to this level? And is this truly what I want? And much like a movie, a lot of times you'll see somebody grow all the way to that floor, they'll get to that top position, and then their whole life flashes before their eyes. And they look at all the things that they lost in their life to get to that moment, to get to that leadership position. And a lot of times in a movie scene, you'll see them take off a tie, take off the jacket, and they walk out to never return. And that's kind of where I hit in my career. Was I had accomplished everything I wanted to accomplish. And I don't mean this to be arrogant, but my only dream since I was a child was to be a Marine. So kind of a simple dream in a sense, in its own little way.
I would beg to differ.
Yeah. So that was like my only dream, was to be a Marine. And so once I got into it, it was, okay, well, how do I get to the next level? Then how do I get to the next level? And then how do I get to the top level? So there was a small chase within myself to get to those different levels. But once I got to the end, it was like, wow, what did I sacrifice to get to this point?
Can you share with me, and sorry for cutting you off, I just want to, because I think that's important, right? It's, my dream was to be a Marine. I got I got the chance to don the uniform, but when I got to a level, I wanted to go to the next level, right? So I'm curious, tell me, what was the impetus, or what drove you to wanting to be at that next level? What was the perception or drive for that?
So I think for me personally, it was constantly trying to prove to myself that I was somebody, or that I was capable of being someone. If that makes sense in its own weird way, growing up with so little, this was a path to kind of set myself aside, separate myself from the path that I grew up in, to make my own identity, to make my own presence known in a sense. So it was, for me, it was a journey. For me, it was a path that was, I personally laid out as, I guess, goals. And, I was thinking the other day, about the fact that a lot of times we'll say stuff like, man, I'm never happy with what I've accomplished.
Yeah.
And I think when your show kind of talks about leadership, and as a leader, in my mind, this is just Mark Allen, man. In my mind, as a leader, you're trying to make everyone else successful. That's your goal in your mind, is to try to make everyone else successful.
At what cost?
I don't think there is a cost. Like, I would sacrifice anything for success in others as a leader.
When I say at cost, or at what cost, I'm thinking about, for you as an individual, ensuring the well-being and the interest of everybody else was first and foremost the highest priority.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you had to have sacrificed things for Mark Allen.
Yeah, we have a I'll tie in Marine Corps for a moment. We have a book out there that we are quote unquote required to read. And that book is called Leaders Eat Last. Like, that's the title of the book.
Simon said.
Leaders Eat Last. That covers your cost right there. You're last. You're at the end of the line. The success in your company, in your organization, or whatever the case may be, revolves around the human beings that make that place up. So for me, everything was sacrificial, if that's the right word. Like, I was willing to sacrifice.
It's good enough for off script.
Yeah, I was willing to sacrifice anything and everything. And I think, man, for so long, I let that uniform identify who I was as a person. I laughed the other day. I was talking about the Marine Corps in general, and a little bit different from an officer standpoint. We go to boot camp, and I was thinking, man, it's so similar to going to prison in its own little way. Like,
yeah,
you show up in a bus, you get off the bus, you stand on these little yellow footprints that are painted on the ground, and then they take you into a building, and the first thing that they tell you is you are no longer your first name. You are now recruit last name.
Yeah.
They strip you.
It's like that prison number, right?
Yeah, and they give
you are now prison 23039.
Well, the best part about it is they would give you a laundry number. So they give you a laundry number, and then they strip you of your clothes. You put them all in a little brown bag, and you roll them up, tape it, and it goes into a warehouse until you graduate. And then they take your hair.
So they let you make a phone call, one last phone call that hopefully you can get a hold of somebody.
That's right. You get one phone call. So I was like, man, I went literally, it was like going to prison.
I laugh because if you know, you know, right?
That's right.
It's like, it's the largest, even as the entire organization, and not just boot camp, but I agree with you, Mark, and I agree with you for this reason right here, and I've always said this. We fight for all of the rights and freedoms of others, and those are the ones that we don't get.
100%. We will fight and die for the freedoms that we don't even get. Yep. Yes, that's sacrifice right there alone. That's sacrifice alone.
Yeah, it is sacrifice, man. But I think if you look at, I guess, the primary demographics of the military, specifically the Marine Corps, and probably a lot of other ones, especially at the junior ranks, most of us had no other choice.
Yeah. That was so what I thought was my dream, I'll give you this, I've done a lot of therapy in the last few years of my life. So for my whole career, since I was 6 years old, my only dream was to become a United States Marine. Saw a Marine for the very first time when I was like 6 years old playing T-ball. Like, absolutely, that was what I wanted to do. Nothing else. So a few years ago, I actually did some inpatient therapy. I did 30 days of inpatient therapy in a program called Strong Hope.
Uh-huh.
And I was talking to a therapist, and she was like, explain to me this dream. Explain to me the dream about being a United States Marine. So I was telling her, she was like, what did you see in that Marine? And I said, I saw confidence. I saw poise. I saw that he demanded attention. Everything about him, the way that he walked, he carried himself, he drew people's attention to him. And so as I'm explaining these things to her, she crushed my childhood dream by telling me it wasn't your dream to become a Marine. It was an easy out of the life that you were in.
Mm.
And it was the fastest and easiest way.
And for those who don't know, the Marine Corps life is not an easy life. Yeah. So that says a lot about the pre-life, pre-Marine Corps, right? If you're choosing a hard as hell path to get out of the path you're in, God bless you.
Yeah, so that was, I mean, for me, that was, I guess, and when she broke it down, it was like, holy crap, that makes sense. Like for me, that was the easiest and quickest way out, and a guaranteed route out in a sense. But yeah, man, sorry, I went down a whole lot of military road with you, and
no, it's fine. That's who you are, man, yeah. Or who you were. I don't even know. It's a part of your life. It's a part of your story. It's a part of your identity. It doesn't necessarily mean it defines you. And I think it's great that we're talking about it because, in essence, if I was to say, if we look at any organization, the military is the organization, and it's not the Marine Corps, it's all of them, that requires you to lead from a script. And what I mean by that is you talk a certain way, you have a command presence, you give a command of execution, right? You give all these things in a way that instills confidence in those you lead. They don't want somebody who's fragile, weak, emotional. They want somebody who's calm under pressure, right? All these things are great, and I don't want to paint the picture that those things aren't great as a leader. Those things are wonderful, but I feel, and Mark, please share with me and agree with me or disagree with me, that we've seen a lot of people, at least I've seen a lot of people in leadership roles, whether they're at the lower level NCO roles all the way up to officer roles, that try to lead from a different version of who they are. And it comes out disingenuous, right? What I mean by that is, someone is maybe a quiet person, but they try to be commanding and authoritative, and it almost comes out like laughable. Or they see somebody who they admire leads a certain way because of their personality, and they try to mimic that, and it just comes out fake. Right? Have you seen that? I mean, are you guilty of that? I know I am, especially when I was younger.
Yeah, I think you said you used the right term there. You said mimic. And a lot of people would get into this rank and billet, and they would lose themselves in that rank and billet, going back to what you just said, is mimicking someone else they saw prior. I went to the drill field as a drill instructor very, very young in my career.
How old were you?
So 18, 21, just about to turn 22.
21 with the weight of training future Marines.
Correct.
In a job that was basically 24/7 for 3 months at a time with maybe a week or two off.
Yeah, that was...
Wash, rinse, and repeat.
That's right. That was 2005, 2008 was the window. So that was the push for troops. That was the Iraq War. There was a lot happening in that moment. But I went there...
And as drill instructors, like you're like, you have to be this pristine image, yeah?
Yeah. So there comes the...
Yeah, share with me that story.
Yeah,
this is good.
There comes the scripted individual. And I've always said this, and a lot of people don't like it, but it is what it is. I've always said the fakest Marine you'll ever meet in your entire life is a drill instructor.
Why is that? Tell me more.
Because you are scripted from head to toe. You are scripted from your day to day. You have a schedule that lays out your entire day. You are a very authoritative figure, obviously, as a Marine Corps drill instructor. So you are never asking, you are always telling. Those recruits that are in your charge, they don't know who you are as a leader. They don't know who you are as a father or a mother or a brother or a sister, an aunt or an uncle. They don't know any of those things. They don't even see you do all the training that they are required to do, per se.
Mm-hmm.
because your job is to demand of them. It's literally in the scripted speech that you give them. I will demand of you by my own example. So that it's in the script, and it's a written script. Parasol is a
Like, it's
very
literally, for those who don't know, is a literal written script that they have to memorize verbatim and put on a performance, essentially, on pickup day.
spot on performance. You even practice for that performance.
Right. So this is like the epitome of script leadership.
Yes.
And that doesn't, I don't want to take away from the military, the Marine Corps, or any other branch that does this. And I don't want to take away from all the drill instructors that are out there that are truly beautiful, successful, authentic leaders. And I don't want to spin it that way, but talking about this is a script. Like, literally, you are on a script from day one when you get to that depot until you leave.
Yeah, the script starts the minute you arrive on the yellow footprints. There is literally a scripted speech that says, you are now aboard Marine Corps Recruit Depot, Parris Island, San Diego. It's an entire scripted speech that you say. So every person that hits those yellow footprints hears the exact same speech. Now, of course, every drill instructor is going to put their own spin on it, but the words are verbatim. So the script starts the minute you hit the footprints. And I think for me, when you start talking about the scripted leader and unscripted leader, going there at a very young age, I was very vulnerable. I was very impressionable. It was a very demanding time for the United States and for our military. So I think for me, what I learned in that moment was I hated being held to a scripted leadership style. I love to demand of individuals, but I didn't like to demand from a standpoint of, you would do this because I'm telling you to do it.
That makes sense.
So I think that shaped my leadership style when I left there. It was, I want to be a leader that demands, but I also want to be a leader that leads by example. I also want to know the human being, because when they're recruits, they're not seen as quote unquote human beings. That's
facts.
That's just who we are.
Yeah.
And I mean, we have one job. That's to defend the United States of America. That's our job. So it's okay to be that way, I believe.
Yeah.
But I quickly learned, like, man, I want to lead from a human perspective.
Hey, what's up? Just a quick break to remind you that Off Script isn't just about my stories and my experiences. Off Script is meant to be a community, so it's about your stories and experiences as well. I would love for you to be a part of the Listeners Off Script series, Stories from the Stage, a series featuring people like you. So if you have a story about what it means to lead off script, or perhaps a story where you have led within the script for so long that you're fed up and that you're exhausted, please email me at joshua@offscript.us. That's JOSHUA @offscript.us for a chance to be featured on an upcoming episode. Now, let's get back to it. And you couldn't do that as a drill instructor, or I think in a lot of places, you can't do that, right?
No, I think you're right. I think we have rules and regulations like anybody else in any type of other place. But I've always said for so long, like, if I can get to know Josh, I can probably lead rank Fisher. But I got to know you. I have to know you first. If I don't know you, man, I can't lead you. If I don't know your home life, where you came from, what you like, what you don't like, it's hard to lead you as a person. And I think that applies in life anywhere and everywhere you go.
Yeah. I want to latch on to a couple of things. One, I want to latch on to, you said you want to demand of others, but you also want to know them as human. And I'm willing to bet, just from knowing you, when you say you do want to demand of others, it's not to follow your orders. Your demand is for them to be the best human, best person, best Marine, make the best decisions, put in the most amount of effort, and give their all. is what you're demanding.
Yeah, I want to see them.
Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to see them as the best version of themselves.
Yeah. And that's the demand, right?
Yeah, for them to be able to be the best version of them, for them to see that, man, they're seen in this world, they're valued, they're capable, they're appreciated. And so many times we get dogged in just life, and you forget that. You forget the value in yourself. And I think that's an important piece as a leader, is to remind individuals that you're needed, man. Like, you're needed, you're wanted, you're valued, you're seen. And I think we lose it a lot of times in leadership because we get caught up in the drive, the numbers, the hours, the success. That's just my own opinion. And again, that's my opinion within my small box that I've lived in for 23 years.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's both of our opinions. Like, none of this is a knock on any military branch. It's not a knock on the Marine Corps. It's not a knock on anybody. It's just you and I communicating about how we perceive now, maybe not then, but how we perceive that script now, or the things that we did. And for those who don't understand, I guess, the Marine Corps ideology and approach, and their priorities, it's always mission accomplishment and troop welfare. It has never been the reverse. It's never been troop welfare or mission, right? It's always mission first. So there's a reason to our approach to that scripted leadership, and what it boils down to, what the military does, regardless of branch, is they put themselves in harm's way, as you said, to protect the Constitution of the United States of America. And there's no room for ambiguity. There's no room for lack of clarity. There's no room for questions or questioning things. And it all boils down to this instant willingness and obedience to orders, because if I tell you to do something, there's a reason. And we'll talk about it later, but when I tell you to execute, I need you to execute it. I don't need you to raise your hand and ask why. And that's why we're taught a certain way, and that's why we're taught a script. So I just want everybody to know, like, the script is there for a reason. And the reason is, at the end of the day, and Mark, you can correct me if I'm wrong, the reason is life or death.
100%.
Because if somebody doesn't follow a command or an order, that has adverse consequences.
Yes.
And that's instilled, like you said, from the day one on the yellow footprints until the day that the Marine Corps gives you your retirement certification or certificate, whatever that's just called, and they say goodbye. That's the reason for it. And there's a justification for it. But what we lose in that whole process, or maybe what we never gain in that whole process, is who the hell am I? And something that you talk about in Voices in Silence is when you're gone from the military and you're no longer wearing that uniform, that is a question that you have to ask yourself every day, because you no longer have that cape, that mask. Who the hell am I without this? And I want to dive into that a little bit, especially with the drill instructor. Yes, you've had plenty of accomplishments and significant roles in the military, but I think the drill instructor role is probably one of the, if not the hardest, most demanding role that's in the Marine Corps. And God forbid if a recruiter's hearing this, they'll probably say otherwise, but whatever.
That's right. I wouldn't have a job without them. So shout out to those guys.
God bless those guys too. Yeah, right. I mean, they're working long hours and have quotas and doing scripts too, man. But just different vibes, man. But I want to know about, like, how that script was different, and maybe you didn't recognize it, and maybe you still don't. So maybe it's a good question for you to think about. How did that role, like, suppress Mark Allen and who he was in a very important time, formative years, 21, whatever, very impressionable still. Like, how did that role suppress you and your growth and being a person?
Probably could go down a whole lot of rabbit holes. I'm going to try not to.
Pick one. Let's do it.
Yeah, I think so. The first word that came to my mind was sacrifice. And we talked about it a little bit a few minutes ago, but I was willing to sacrifice everything for that job. And I did. I sacrificed a marriage. I sacrificed a lot of my personal life. I sacrificed all the way up to almost my own life. Because there was a moment that I was ready to take my own life.
Say that again, please. When you talk about sacrifice,
Yeah.
say it again.
So the sacrifice that I had for that job, for that uniform, was all the way up until almost my own life. I was willing to take my life because of the sacrifices that I had put into what I thought was the most important thing in my life. But I lost a lot in that time frame.
I asked you to say that again because when you and I first started talking, I asked you at what cost, and the response was very minimal. But everything that you just said, marriage, mental health, physical health, all of it, the well-being of Mark Allen, to the point that Mark Allen almost took his whole life. That's the cost. That's everything that you as a person sacrifice to serve others and be the best image of a Marine that you possibly could be.
Mm.
That's huge. You sacrificed a lot wearing a mask while doing it.
That's right. Because that mask.
What comes up? Yeah, go ahead.
I guess, so as you say that, I of course, I reflect back.
Mm-hmm.
But that mask that I wore, and I've said this to you before, and I've said this to others, when I went to work and I stood there as a drill instructor or what have you, there was an image, and we talked about that. And if anybody knows the Marine Corps and they know of Marine Corps boot camp, or they've heard stories, or they think of a Marine Corps drill instructor, it is an individual that is built head to toe Marine Corps. I'm trying to think of the right term, and it's lost at this moment, but there's no emotion per se. So the person that I was at work was not the same person I was when I went home. I was a broken individual. I didn't necessarily like how I had to, the job I had at that point in time. I didn't like having to demand the way that I had to demand. It didn't fit a lot of my own morals or my own ethics in life. However, it was a job, and it was the job that I had to do in order to be successful, to see the next rank, to see the next duty station, to continue to re-enlist and make it a career. And I knew that.
Yeah.
So I did the job. But then I would go home and break. And I'd go home and I'd crumble.
What do you mean?
Because I wanted, I guess, good question.
I mean, like, yeah, I'll give you a moment to think, but like, when I say, what do you mean? It's like, what did that look like? When you said you went home and you broke, you crumbled, what did that look like?
Some days it literally looked like what it sounded like. There was weeks I was working 115 hour, 100 and close to 20-hour weeks. You'd start work at, the lights would come on at 04 in the morning. Lights would go off at 8 p.m. at night. And then you had a debrief, or you had a morning brief, or whatever the case may be. So there was a lot of times I went home and literally would just come through the front door, lay on the floor because it was tiled. I didn't have to lay on the carpet because I was still disgusting and sweat and everything else. And I didn't want to get comfortable, so I just lay there for the next 3 or 4 hours and just wake back up and go back to work. Some days I didn't even come home. I slept a lot of days in my truck in the parking lot because work started so early, so quickly. So I think the crumble part was I was losing so much of my personal life that I felt like it was going to be gone forever, in a sense. And there came a day, and a lot of the stuff I'm sharing, I guess I'm just kind of like unpacking a lot of it in a different way right now. But there came a day when I literally made a choice. I remember this. I remember it very distinctly. I made a choice where my marriage was falling apart. My personal life was shit. And I remember telling myself, like, okay, this is what it takes to get to the top. This is what it's going to take to be successful. I'm willing to let everything else go. And I will dedicate what I've got left in the tank to the Marine Corps. The Marine Corps now has me. Everything else is secondary. And that was a decision that I remember it like it was yesterday. I said, okay, this is what you want? You got me. Everything else, fucking second. So there was, a lot of sacrifice involved in that process per se.
And the sacrifice didn't stop after that. You later went on to do multiple roles in the military, lead hundreds, if not thousands, of Marines from the time that you were in Parris Island to the time that you retired. You went back to the drill field, but this time as the senior enlisted instructor.
Yep.
Doing it all over again, but in a different capacity. The responsibility and weight still there. And then you're coming up on the end of your career. Tell me what's going through your head. You're about to, it's inevitable that you're going to hang that, you're going to probably press it one more time knowing you're going to starch it, and then you're going to put it up in your closet, and you're going to hang it up, and potentially, unless you're some old crusty VFW guy, you'll never put that uniform back on.
Yeah, I'll tell you first off how silly it was, because you said I'd press it one more time. I made sure I lost about 10 pounds so that I could fit back in the exact same size uniform that I came into the Marine Corps in.
Okay,
so that I went out the same way I came in.
That's hilarious.
Silly things.
I don't even know if my stuff still fits, man.
But the fear that went through my mind was I knew I was going to have to take off that mask, that uniform, that identity piece. And I was going to have to face the world as me. There was no more rank. There was no more title. There was no more identifying me as a Marine. I had to take all those things off, and I had to face Mark in the mirror. I had to face me as a father. I had to face me as a husband. And it scared me. And that's the reality is it scared me. Because I didn't really know who I was outside of that uniform. I didn't even know what clothes I like to wear. I still don't even know what clothes I like to wear. Like,
dude, I still struggle with that.
Like,
I just chalked it up to the middle-aged dad clothes, and I'm like, good enough.
Yeah. Like, I don't even know. And I think, I was telling somebody the other day, I think when you retire, and I think this could apply in many aspects of life, because everybody retires: law enforcement, first responders, CEOs of companies, NFL, basketball players, whatever the case may be. For so many years, that was your identity. That was your purpose. That was your structure. That was all those things. And when you retire, it's literally overnight. You lose identity, sense of belonging, purpose, structure. Like, those 4 things are gone overnight. And that's what scared me, man. And I had heard about so many of my peers, so many individuals that would get out. And a lot of the times they would just lose it to the point of suicide. And it scared the hell out of me. Because they didn't know how to turn. They didn't know which way to go. They didn't know what their purpose was anymore. So that scared me.
They lose the power, they lose the control, they lose the structure, they lose the identity. They've been operating within that script for so long. When that script is taken from them, and they ask the question, what now? And no one is listening to them because they have to, right? They're just like, I don't have this control anymore. And then, unfortunately, suicide rate is crazy high after retirement. Divorce rate's really high after retirement. because of all those things. And I think it's really what it boils down to. It's that one question. Who am I? And if you don't have the wherewithal, the grit, resiliency, the support network to answer that question, end of tour.
Yeah, that question, I was talking with a therapist about a year out from retirement. And I remember I told her, I said, I think I need more help than what you're giving me. I said, I can structure my session with you. I know I'm going to have a session next month, this date, this time. The session is going to last 60 minutes. And I usually will structure it towards the end of my day. I'll come in 60 minutes with you. I know you can only see me for 60 minutes. I'll get back in my car. I'll pout for a few minutes, swallow my feelings, and then I'll go back to work. I always scheduled it just early enough at the end of the day that I would have to go back to work, because I could go back to work and shift all that emotion out the door. And when she asked me, she's like, what do you mean you need more help? I said, there's 3 things that I'm scared of when I retire. And those 3 things that I'm scared of is divorce, alcohol, and suicide. What order they come in, I don't fucking know. But those 3 things scare me. So that's when I agreed to go to some inpatient therapy, and I knew I needed to be somewhere where I could just get help and not be able to run from that help. And it was one of the best things for me. I'm still learning every single day. It didn't fix me, but it taught me a lot.
But it gave you
it gave me a lot of tools
to do the work.
That's right. Still got to do the work.
It's not their job to fix you, homie.
Still got to do
That's
the work.
your job. Oh shit, man. I can relate with a lot of that, man. And I just appreciate you being vulnerable with that story. I know you've lived that story your entire life, but more probably over the past 2 or 3 years, telling that story over and over again, therapy, inpatient, your own podcast. So thanks for divulging that information again and sharing it with the off-script community, man. I'm curious as we close out here in a few, and don't feel rushed. I want to know something. I want you to think of something that's true about yourself now that the younger Mark, the younger version in uniform or out of uniform wouldn't have known about you, and maybe couldn't have accepted that truth.
I think one thing is it's okay to value me. It's okay to love myself. It's okay to make mistakes as I grow and as I learn. Because for me, man, perfectionist is probably the wrong word, because none of us are perfect. But perfection was what I searched for. So if I could think of what I know now that maybe I didn't know then was...
Well, that's not the question, my man.
Oh, no.
What is one truth about you now that the younger versions didn't know and probably wouldn't be able to accept?
That I'm a broken, vulnerable human being.
Yeah. Beautiful, man. Like that's, yeah. I think that's great. I think that's really kind of summarizes the story. Like that younger version didn't know that, didn't want to believe it. The Marine version of you didn't think you were broken most of the time. And they're probably will pull that card out on you. Like, no, you're not. No, we're not.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that would be it, that I am, I am broken. I am a vulnerable human being. I also call myself an introvert that does not like people, but has a heart to help everybody in the world.
We're not anti-social, man. We're socially selective.
But man,
You talk about a love-hate relationship like that, damn cold plunge. That's what people are to me, right? That's people are to you. It's a love-hate relationship.
That's right.
Like,
I don't want to go get in this crowd and talk, but
listen. I want to be invited to your event, but I'm probably not going to go. But at least invite me.
that's right. Yeah, I'm real good about if you invite me about 3 months out, I might even invite you 3 months out. But then when you get about 1 month out, it's like, man, I don't know. And then once it's about a week out, I'm like, yeah, I don't think I'm gonna be able to make it, man. I got a lot going on.
You know what I've learned this past year? Never make plans when I'm my extroverted version.
Yeah.
Because you know damn well when that time comes, it's going to be introvert Josh, and he's going to be like, all right, what excuse can I make up? Be like, listen, I got to cut my toenails, man. I can't make it.
There's no way I'm going to be able to make it, man. My toenails are crazy.
But what I've learned, dude, check it out, is simply to say I'm busy.
Yeah.
And if that busy is being intentional, sitting on the couch doing not a damn thing and watching the Golden Girls or whatever, guess what? That's busy taking care of your mental state and your energy.
That's right. That's right. It's your T, your time, energy, and attention.
God,
how much are you giving others, and what are they giving you?
Man, that's a whole nother episode, man. I brought that up the other day in a conversation. I was like, my boy told me about I need to drink my tea. It was like time, energy,
and attention.
And attention. Yeah, I love that. That's another. Maybe I'll do an episode on that.
How much are you giving, and what are you getting back from that individual? Yeah. That's been my mantra here lately. Yeah, no, I think I've bounced all over the place, man. I really do, and I don't really know what I got in there. But one thing I will say is, you talk about the off-script side of leadership, and I think there's a 4-letter word that we don't use a lot. That word's love.
It ain't fuck.
No, man, that word's that word's love. And you know, I used to tell Marines a lot of times, I'd be like, I don't have to like you, man. I don't. I don't like my kid half the time. I don't like my wife, like hardly ever.
Amen. Amen to that.
But I love you, man. Like I love them, and I think we have to find that in leadership. And it's a hard thing for us to accept a lot of times, and even worse for men for whatever reason. Is it's okay to love the individuals that you're in charge of. You don't have to like them all the time, and they're going to piss you off. But if you love them and you can find that connection, man, I think that's when you can lead them.
I like that, and I agree with it.
Is it hard?
And it's a hard word. It's a hard word because people, just my opinion, maybe not truly understand it, right? When they hear love, maybe it's a parental love, maybe it's a sibling love, maybe it's an intimate love, and maybe it's a platonic love, right? But it's a sacred word. And some believe that it takes a lot to get there, and others like myself love easy, love fast, love hard, love quick. And it's been detrimental to me, but love simply means to, and how I'm sort of internalizing this and processing it is, love is, I want you to be successful. I want to take care of you. I'm not always going to be nice. I may yell at you. I may tell you to get the hell away from me, but I want the best for you. And I love you because you are human and you are here with me.
Yeah.
Right?
Solid.
Is that fair?
Absolutely. Like, absolutely.
Yeah. And that's what leadership is, right? Bending over backwards, sacrificing to take care of people and your team because you love them.
Yeah. I think leadership's got 3 traits, and that's my own Mark Allen 3 traits, but there's got to be an emotional, there's got to be love, there's got to be trust. Like, those 3 things have to be involved in leadership. That's just my own.
Yeah. No, normally, and I'm sure it was probably after the fact that you started, after the Marine Corps, sort of going through your own process, that you added on the emotional piece, like even maybe the love piece, right? Because you don't hear a lot of times about the emotional piece. And that doesn't mean like, if I'm a leader, I'm going to go start bawling my eyes out. But the emotion piece is that we hurt.
That's right.
We're in pain. We have burdens. We're happy. And it's recognizing and paying attention to those emotions.
Yeah, it's being vulnerable. It's being a human being. It's being relatable.
Being vulnerable, yeah.
It's being relatable.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's a big piece, is being relatable. So I think that's your off script piece sometimes is being relatable because you got to be a human. And a lot of times as a leader, we have one mission, and that's to drive that mission. No matter what role you're in, there is always a mission. But if people can see you as a human being and relate to you, I'm probably going to be more willing to want to work with you for you.
I couldn't have said it better.
Probably could
I
have.
think that was a good sort of closeout and transition, man. No, I think your story, I don't think your story, I know your story and how you articulated it with us is the epitome of what leading on script is and what it can do to you physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Yes, I understand you living on script was the choices that you made, but it was to live in an image of what a successful Marine looks like. But while living within that script voluntarily, you sacrificed so much of you. You've lost or never gained so much of you. And it took years to find that. It took literally for you to almost leave this world to understand that there is more and that you are important and you need to take care of yourself, which you've never done that. Even being a child parent.
That's right. That's right.
Right?
Yeah, there was
you
never me.
took care of Mark.
Yeah.
You didn't take care of Mark until it was nearly almost too late. And leading on script or within a script may never get to that point, and it may not be as dramatic, but my belief is that our society has framed that leadership has to be a certain way. It has to be in this box. It has to be within the left and right lateral limits. If you don't operate this way, then you don't get here, you don't get there, etc. Right? So we have to fit in this mold. And the off-script ideology is get out of that mold. It's required sometimes, I get it, but learn how to lead the way you lead. Be authentically you, whatever that is. If you're an emotional person, whatever the case is, leading those three sort of leadership ideologies. What did you say? You said emotional, love, and trust.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, right? And you can do that off script. You can do that in script, but the whole point is just be you. And I guarantee you, had you been you and understand you sooner, you would not have made some of the compromises or sacrifices that you did.
Yeah, true. I think I like the word you used. You said your authentic self. And that's tough, man. That's a tough one a lot of times when we get caught up in a role. But just being you. I've said it over the last couple years of my career was stay true to yourself. It's easy to get lost and it's easy to lose you in the process of climbing the ladder, whatever ladder that may be. But the authentic self, man, and people will see fake, and it's easier
100%.
it's easier to see fake today than it ever has been with social media and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to see through the person, and people see that quick. So yeah, be your authentic self.
Yeah, love it, man. So we have a tradition on the podcast, man.
Mm-mm.
I end every episode with a journaling prompt. And the idea is to capture the essence of the episode in a question that our listeners can think about, can ponder. And when I have a guest on, I'm going to ask the guest to share the journaling prompt. What do you got?
You know, I think I had one that I had wrote down prior to us starting, because you kind of gave me the script of that. There's, you know, I'll leave you with the journaling prompt.
I gave you the structure of the podcast.
That's right.
And I gave you a reach around by saying, "Hey, I'm going to ask you to do a journaling."
I like using the word script since we've been using it and beating it up this whole episode. No, you did, and as we talked and as we kind of slow down towards the end, I think for me, and I don't have this word for word, do you let yourself or your role stand in the way of the love you have for those under you?
Yeah. So when do you let, right? What's the rest of the question, just to clarify? So when do you let this occur? What is it?
So when do you let, man, I don't know. I'm all over the map right now. You've got a lot of emotions stirred inside of me.
That's all right. Doesn't have to be perfect. We'll work through it. Just want to make sure our listeners have a clear, and it looks like this is going to be a deep one. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I think these, do you let your emotions control who you are as a leader? Maybe that's the better part.
when do you let your emotions control who you are as a leader? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's accurate.
That's what you want to ask. All right, cool. So that's the journaling prompt, ladies and gentlemen. When do you, or how do you let your emotions control you as a leader? And I'm assuming that's decision making, that's interactions, right? Mark mentioned this word, love. How does it maybe prevent you from loving? Think about it. Maybe Mark and I weren't very clear as mud, they say. But the whole point, I believe, Mark, correct me if I'm correct here, is just understanding, having emotional awareness and how that impacts you as a leader in decision making, but maybe also preventing yourself from leading as you. Is that fair?
That's right.
Is that a good one? All right. Mark, we've spent an hour together. We were planning on 10 minutes. I appreciate your time. Thanks for sharing your story, brother. I greatly value you. I respect you. I admire you. You are somebody who inspires me daily, inspired me to get this podcast going, inspired me to jump in that cold ass water. And you just inspire me to be a better person every day. And I'm glad that you were the one to do the first episode with me, man. I'm forever grateful to you. And just before we get off, homie, I just want to let you know, I love you, man. And I appreciate you, and I respect you, dude.
Yeah, I love you too, brother. I appreciate the opportunity.
Awesome, man. Take care.
Yep, see it.
Hey, that's it. That's the episode right there, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed it. If something resonated with you, please like, follow, and subscribe on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and YouTube. Your support helps us reach more authentic leaders. And don't forget to share this message if you know someone who needs it. And lastly, remember, Offscript wants your stories as well, so you can be featured on the Offscript series, Stories from the Stage. Email me at joshua@offscript.us to share what leading Offscript means to you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. And until next time, continue to lead